What's going on, preppers? This is Sensible Prepper School 23, volume 23.
Can you believe that? 23
23,
weeks.
and we still have stuff to talk about.
Oh,
That's
yes.
what's really crazy. Welcome, guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great week. We missed last week. I was at the Tactical Response Way of the Pistol, and I'm just going to say just one thing about it. It was life-changing. I highly recommend you getting training, but if you want not just to be a shooter, but if you want to be a gunfighter, you need to go to that class. It was phenomenal. I've got a video coming up on the Sootch channel about it, but it was just phenomenal. So missed you guys, but it was a good cause. And also, we just really appreciate Robbie Wheaton for being here from Wheaton Arms. Does a lot of Glock aftermarket parts, custom guns, but he also has his YouTube channel he is rocking, and I have a link down below in the description. It's either Wheaton Arms or Robbie Wheaton.
Yep,
you can find us
either way. Yes, sir.
And a lot of good information over there.
I tell you, we just finished up the disassembly video on the Kimber Pro Carry 2, where we stripped it, showed you how to take it completely apart, every little piece on the gun.
Wow.
And we've got the reassembly video that is going through editing and everything right now. So we should have the reassembly video up either today or tomorrow to show you how to take all those pieces and put them back in the gun. But that's one of those that I wanted to do forever, because I get a gun in a bag all the time.
Right.
I got one on Sunday. We're having our small group with church at our house, and this guy comes in and he's got one of the giant Ziploc bags that you put pillows in, and there's a gun stuffed in the bag. And he was like, help. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's the biggest bag I've ever had one brought in.
That's awesome.
So I decided to do the 1911 disassembly and reassembly, because that's one that a lot of people get hung up with. There's a lot of small parts.
Frame. Yeah.
Especially the frame. And with the Series 80 stuff, how to reinstall all the Series 80 parts and take those out. So we went through and did a complete disassembly video on it, and we're putting together the reassembly video now and getting the reassembly video put back up. But that was a really fun one to shoot.
Right. So, and Robbie was a gunsmith for over 20 years, so knows a little bit, and did a lot of custom builds on 1911s. So.
I've built 1911s and 2011s for about 25 years for myself and friends and a bunch of other people, primarily for competitive shooting.
Right.
And so I've got a pretty in-depth knowledge of the 1911 and how it works.
Yeah. So check out his channel. We really appreciate him being here. Also, we thank Sportsman's Guide for sponsoring today's episode. You get $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch. No 00.
That's all. Just Sootch.
Just Sootch.
Yep.
That's it.
And make sure you sign up for their Buyers Club as well. The Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on anything over $49.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. And their surplus, they have a mountain of surplus, and that's really great for preppers because you have tested equipment and gear for reasonable prices. Okay, so, and also we appreciate Sarah Mack. She will be over answering and monitoring the comments, answering questions, or giving us the questions. And if you have questions at any time, go ahead and put them in there. So when we take a break, we'll be ready to go. She's putting all that down. She's organizing that. Okay, we have 20 items. In fact, I started out with 10, and then down at the bottom, I just started adding and adding and adding and adding. I was like, okay, let's go with 20 items that, to me, and me personally, these are things that I personally put back on a regular basis, because these are items that you're going to use, and if they run out, it's just going to put you in a tougher spot.
Yep. I love the way you titled it, Top 20 Items to Hoard. Because that's just absolutely perfect, because there's some items that you want to have plenty of excess of,
right?
And that's really an appropriate name for today's title.
Right. Now, you're not, well, you are a hoarder. If you're a prepper, you're a little bit of a hoarder. But the one thing about prepping, and guys, this is the key, is buy it while you can. When you really become a hoarder and you disrupt distribution is when you go out like they did after in 2020, when people ran out and they bought mountains of toilet paper at the last minute. We didn't need to do that. We already had our toilet paper stored up. So we weren't putting a strain on distribution. We had our items. And like I've always said, guys, everybody's kind of going along. And if you're buying the necessary things you need while everybody's kind of asleep, when things start to go crazy and people panic, items are going to disappear. So that's one of the reasons why I want to give you some heads up on some of the things that we purchase ahead of time, and then we end up using them all the time.
That's right.
And it's not like we don't use them. So we're not going to talk about food and water and all that kind of stuff. That's a no-brainer. You need to be putting some food and water and your essentials back. But these are some things maybe that'll give you some pause to think. And maybe the next time you're at a grocery store, you might, or Walmart or wherever you shop, is to pick up a few items. Now, the first on the list is one of the quintessential repair kit. You can repair about anything.
Oh yeah,
with duct tape.
Absolutely.
And duct tape has a bazillion uses. We've done a video on all the, well, not all the uses because there's so many, but number one uses for survival using duct tape. And this is Gorilla Tape, but you can use standard duct tape. It works great. Doesn't matter about the color. You buy whatever you want to.
I'll tell you the thing that I like about the Gorilla Tape is it's a lot thicker than a lot of your other duct tapes that you buy. It's a lot thicker, and the glue that they use on it is extremely adhesive.
Right.
So we use that a lot with racing, and you can literally put parts back together, and I mean hold stuff together that will last an entire race with that stuff. It's impressive. It's really impressive.
Yeah, duct tape is number one, but having some other type tapes. I mean, even masking tape. There are uses that really are better for this. And guys, you use it all the time anyway. Electrical tape, that's a big one. To have those kind of tapes. But the one thing about it though is try to buy at least some quality tape, or I would buy some maybe cheaper tape and check it out and test it out. Don't just buy up a big mound of cheap tape and then you're trying to pull it and it's like stuck and it's attached to the little sides, and you gotta make it as easy as you can. Get some good quality duct tape, whether it's Duct tape or Gorilla Tape. And then, of course, having different kinds of glue. Now, one of the things about glue is it can dry out.
It can.
You can have some issues with it. So make sure you keep it sealed. And typically, if you keep it sealed, it'll be okay. But
the good thing, we buy a lot of the super glue in the little small tubes.
Right.
And we use it almost as a one-use deal. You pull it out, you open it, you use it, and you just basically throw it away because it'll end up hardening.
Right. If you get the big ones, it's like
that's right. But because you get the little ones, they're all sealed up, and you can buy them in bulk. You can store them, and they'll last for a long, long time as long as they stay sealed up.
Right. That's a good point. So, yes, different kinds of adhesives. So, and command strips. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do, and you could even go into some Velcro and Velcro strips. We did a video about that as well, just about using Velcro strips and different methods. And so these are things that you can repair. You can, use it for repair is mainly the thing. And, you can take things and set them up. You can do a lot of things with tape. And also one thing that kind of falls in line with this, that's not on the list, but I'm going to add it, is Flex Seal. And Flex Seal is a really good way to seal things up. You can even seal your tools. It's almost like Plastidip. And there's a lot of things you can do. We did a huge video on Flex Seal. That's a bonus. I just wanted to throw that one in. Okay, number 2. Because I guess we need to kind of keep things rolling because we're going to be, we got a lot to talk about
today for sure.
Is Paracord. And now one thing about Paracord is you want to make sure that you get 550 cord, and you want to get the 7 strands inside. That's one thing that's really important because you want really military grade. And this is stuff that if you buy it cheap, it's going to fail on you if you're not careful, if you're really putting any kind of load. But 550 cord holds up to 550 pounds.
Yep, that's what it's rated for.
Right.
Exactly.
And then the individual strands, you can pull out.
That's right. They're, 50 pounds or 75 pounds per strand.
Per strand.
Yep.
And you can use them for fishing line. You can use them to tie up things. If you don't want to waste a lot of paracord and you have something light, you can cut a piece off, pull the strands out, and use it to tie things down. So paracord is a big one, but I would highly recommend getting good quality. Make sure, because I've gone into places before and, like not Tractor Supply, but Harbor Freight. And sometimes they have the 550 cord and sometimes they have some cheaper stuff. And 2, you can pick some really good colors because you may be using it kind of covertly. So, having some good paracord. This is one of the spool tools. It's a great way to organize your paracord. Has a little cutter, has a small little lighter, which typically ends up losing its fuel. But,
Mhm.
you know, these are great to organize. And, you know, you can do a lot of other things. But paracord cordage is very important. Now, for me, paracord is one of my big ones. It's one of in my survival kits.
Mhm.
But also bank line, tarred bank line, or non-tarred. You can get either one. It's a very strong, very thin line. And so I like to keep bank line, but then just rope.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes paracord is a little thin and you get a good solid rope and you can tie things down, bungee cords, things like that. But cordage, any kind of cordage. But my primary is my paracord, and that's what I use for survival.
I tell you, a good source for top grade paracord is Amazon. You can get it 100-foot, 500-foot, 1,000-foot spools. The only downside that I've seen with 1,000-foot spools, and it's across the board, it's with your military paracord, all of it, the spools are junk. And a lot of times the spools will end up breaking, and then you've got this huge bird nest.
It's all mixed up.
Yep, and it gets all twisted. I mean, it's like going fishing with a bait caster. You know, you throw it out, it hits the water, and next thing you know, you got this big bird nest in front of you. That's what the 1,000-foot rolls of paracord will look like if they come apart. But it's a great resource to be able to get bulk paracord if you're wanting to get more than just 100-foot or so to be able to store up.
Right. And I think this was actually a lot larger when I got it. It has a spool, but I like to have the smaller ones because I can carry them around. If I need it, I can throw one in the truck. I can throw one in the T-Rex or whatever. So cordage, number 2, definitely any kind of cordage that you can get. And I mean, how many times, like for us, like if I want to haul off some trash or something, or, you know, put my tarp over it and tie it up with paracord, or, you know, bungees or whatever. So there's a lot of different uses. You know, if you have a shelter, you can, for an improvised shelter, you can use paracord. You can even use paracord to build, like, you know, logs and wood, do a wood kind of improvised shelter. So
endless uses with it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's tons. And there's even some, I have some, it's called Firecord. And it has a strand inside that you can actually light and it'll flame up. Yeah. So it's good for fire starting.
That's cool.
There's a lot of cool things about paracord that are out there. Okay, now the next is one thing that there was an expert survivalist. I read this in an article, so it didn't really name the guy, but he was like one of the top survivalists out there. And when I say survivalist, I'm talking about going out into the wilderness and just living off the land. And they asked him, they said, if you had one thing that you would take, what would it be? And he said, a heavy meal trash bag.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what? What about a knife? What about a gun? What about a lighter, a bow, whatever? But he said that a heavy meal trash bag. One of the things in the rule of threes is you have 3 hours that you've got to get your temperature controlled or you'll die. 3 hours in harsh conditions is all you can live. And so really having a heavy meal trash bag, you can put it over you. You can use it as a cover. Mm-hmm. You know, you can wrap up in it. You can use it as a poncho. Again, we have done a video on the uses of these. There's a bazillion. You can put water in it and carry it. Now, the key is a heavy meal trash bag, an industrial strength. And typically, now I think now you can even get them at some of your local stores, but at Lowe's, Home Depot, places like that, you can buy the big contractors bags. Mm-hmm. They're heavy meal. They're just thick. These go in every pack. That's of any size. If I'm going to use it for a survival pack.
That's right. Absolutely.
There are just so many uses for these. But that also goes along with tarps. One thing that we do a lot. And the thing is, it has those eyelets. You can tie it down. It's just more sturdy even than these bags. But tarps are
great for improvised shelters.
Right.
They're tarp and 550 cord, and you've got a tent.
Right.
So
you can even use a stick. If
that's right.
Use stakes if you don't have your stakes.
That's right.
And one thing we do is we buy a lot of tent stakes and we just stick them in there. You have tent stakes, a tarp. You can use this on the ground, and you're good to go. You know, in fact, we did I think it was 10 different shelters or 8 different shelters you can do. That was also a video. I'm going to have so many videos. I'm not going to have them annotated. If you want to go to the Sensible Prepper channel and just put it in the little hourglass or the magnifying glass, you can find them. Okay. Number 4 is candles. Just buying candles. Mm-hmm. And there's a ton of different choices for that.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
large ones, small ones. And, you know, the bigger the candle, the longer it'll burn. But it also, the larger candle, it kind of hides your flame a little bit, so you don't get quite as much light from it, and you don't get quite as much heat from it. So we tend to buy the smaller candles, which give you a little more light, and you can actually use them to heat with as well. So I always prefer the smaller, inch and a half diameter candles over the really big ones, just because you can get more light and more heat off of those.
Right. Now you can go and buy those cheaply. In fact, we went to, we did a video on thrift store survival. And Sarah Mack and I went through there, and I told her, I said, you know what? It's going to take us probably 2 or 3 times to get enough items. We had a buggy. It was overflowing on one trip.
Yep.
And one of the things we got a lot of were candles. They have a lot of candles there. People just, here you go.
Yep.
And so thrift stores are a great place to find a lot of items. So, but yeah, candles. But now there are emergency candles that'll last like for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. And those are a little more proprietary. They're more expensive, but obviously you get a lot more performance out of them. So candles are really vital. Okay. Now we could go to lighters next, but we're not. It's down on the list. So we're going to go to zip ties. Zip ties. Zip ties are one of those inventions that they're just beautiful.
Until you've had them and used them, you don't realize the importance of zip ties and everything that you can do with them. I mean, they're like, you just have to have them. You have to have them.
And, I would recommend getting some larger sizes first, because you can always cut them down if you need to. But these things are great. Once they're secure, they are locked on, and of course you guys know what zip ties are, but zip ties can be great for improvised shelters. They can be great for tying down things. There's a lot of different uses for zip ties. They're very inexpensive. You can buy huge volumes of them. You can buy multi-packs with all kind of different sizes, different colors.
Yep. And those are about 1 foot long that you've got there, maybe 1/4 of an inch wide. That's like my go-to standard size for everything. I normally don't go any smaller than that, just because the small ones, you get down to the little tiny ones, and the lock just isn't as strong with them. And they can pull apart. So the 1 foot long ones, 3/16 or so wide, maybe 1/4 inch wide head, those are my absolute go-to for everything zip tie related.
Yep. And once you lock that thing down, it's just satisfying.
Oh yeah. Dude, that's like the pump on a pump shotgun. It's an instantly recognizable sound. You know what that is as soon as you hear it.
And it's not coming loose.
No.
So, it's a great, obviously a great item. Okay. We're going to go to one more. If you have questions, start putting them over there. Sarah Mack can signal me, because we do want to get your questions, because a lot of times the questions are some of the most important parts of what we do.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, and the big one is, you guys already know about this. Toilet paper. Guys, get your toilet paper. I mean, now the problem with toilet paper is storage.
It's a bulky item.
It is. Yep. It's a bulky item, but having toilet paper, there's not really a good substitute. There's just not.
Yeah.
And
that JCPenney fall and winter catalog is easy to store, but it's hard to use. If you know what I mean.
Slick. Yeah. Those gloss photos, man, it's rough. So good toilet paper. I mean, and buy it in bulk. We buy what we use. We don't just buy a bunch of cheap toilet paper that's going to just, come apart while you're using it.
John Wayne toilet paper.
Yeah, we're not.
Y'all know what John Wayne toilet paper is.
Tell us, Robbie.
Rough, tough, don't take crap off anybody.
We don't want the John Wayne toilet paper.
No John Wayne toilet paper.
And guys,
keep that in the convenience store.
That's right. Take your own when you go in there. And of course, wet wipes. Wet wipes are kind of going along with this, even though I didn't put it on the list. Wet wipes are great. Actually, that is even a better substitute.
I actually prefer the wet wipes, because if you buy them by the case, they're a lot easier to store, and they're easier to stack. They don't take up as much space as toilet paper, and I think they go a lot further.
That's true. And there's so many more uses.
There are. That's right. You can use them for cleaning, sanitization. They've got a lot of uses other than, just their intended use.
Right. So, that's a big one. And guys, because we've already seen it, that's one of the first things that goes off the shelf in any kind of crisis anymore. I mean, it's crazy. Okay. What have we got?
David Frost asks, what are the best sites for first responders to purchase gear?
North American Rescue is one of the big ones. And then there's the guys down. Now, if you're already a first responder and you have that, Now, like Robbie has GoMed Gear.
Yep.
It's a website. They do a lot of gear, a lot of medical stuff there. Skinny Medic has medical gear outfitters. USN ER Doc out west in Oregon. He was an emergency room doctor for a number of years. He has amp3.net, and he's got a lot of good stuff. I have to spread the love.
That's right. Absolutely.
But,
absolutely.
And Bear Independent, and I don't know if you ever watched his channel, but Bear he has some really great ideas. But again, there's one down in Anderson too that was
TACMed Solutions.
TACMed Solutions. But North American Rescue is probably one of the most premier medical that I would and that's where you get a lot of your products.
A lot of our stuff comes from North American Rescue. But I'll tell you guys, right now, with everything that's going on in the Ukraine and overseas, a lot of our medical supplies from the United States are being sent overseas for humanitarian aid. And it's very, very difficult to find a lot of your medical supplies, your tourniquets, your chest seals, and things like that. If you're looking for trauma kits, stop the bleed kits, you need to really go ahead and start looking for those now, because they are drying up quickly.
Yeah, and a lot of countries that are bordering that are also buying that.
They are. That's right.
Yes.
Skullcram asks, how long does Flex Seal last in the can?
Good question. Main thing is keeping that tube clean, and it helps last longer. But that's one. I've used it a number of times, and I haven't used the one I have right now lately, so I'm not really sure. So, it's like anything, after a while, because they just drain out and then they get solid.
And that's the thing. Once any kind of pressurized vessel like that, be it a fire extinguisher or aerosol spray can or whatever, as soon as you break the seal on it and actually start using it, it can leak down a little bit and you'll lose your pressure in the can. So, it's one of those things where you don't want to use it until you have to use it. And then try and use the majority of it when you do use it, so it doesn't end up going bad while it's sitting on the shelf.
Now, for me, when I'm storing it, I store it in the cans, because they have it in cans, so you can actually apply it with a brush or whatever. So that would probably be the better way to store that.
Bittersweet asks, should I buy wood for boarding up my windows? Crime has already exploded where I live.
Yes. And one thing that's, and that's one of the things we'll get to in a minute, is lumber and pallets. Pallets. Now, pallets, typically the wood is not as sturdy as it would be like with and
it depends on the pallet. If you get industrial pallets, your industrial pallets are either made out of red oak or white oak. If you get your cheaper pallets are generally made out of pine. But your industrial type pallets that they use for transportation, most of your transportation pallets are made out of either red oak or white oak.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend, or while you can, you still bought bars on the windows. Another option is 3M makes a film that'll go on the window and it'll keep it from breaking.
That's right. And
that's one thing that we've been thinking about doing. Because I have a friend of mine that just had it done to his house. They had all the windows coated. You can't even tell there's anything there. But if somebody takes a rock or something and they throw it, it won't bust. It might break, but they still can't get in it because it holds it together. And plexiglass is another thing that you can use, if you needed to.
I guess this is related. Mr. Smith says, have you ever tried 3M brand house window protection? Very
good. Yes. I haven't personally tried it. We've been talking about having it done. But I do have a good friend of mine that lives close, and he had it done, and he's ecstatic about it.
John Bahadur asks, what are some items that come from the war area that we need to hoard that there really isn't a substitute for?
Poncho liners. That's the first one that comes to mind for me, are poncho liners.
Yeah, poncho liners, woobies.
Yep. Which
woobies are great to go under poncho liners, keep you warm. Of course, canteens. Canteens are a good thing that, and you can get surplus canteens or different water sources. Camelbacks, a lot of times that's what they use over there.
Yep.
But now in the war sources, they're using a lot of body armor and everything else. And body armor, they're shipping a lot of that overseas. So, if you're looking for some body armor, you might want to start looking for it.
I was talking to one of the guys at North American Rescue yesterday, and he said that right now that they were months and months out on body armor.
Wow.
It's just gone. It's already all been bought up.
Right.
Raverboy420 asked, do you prefer gummy or pill vitamins? One might melt, the other crushes.
Yeah,
I prefer pill personally, just because they're, like you said, they don't melt, they don't stick together. You know, if I'm packing them in one of my packs, I can sort them and separate them by Ziploc bags, or I can just throw the whole bottle in there. If I get a broken one every now and then, it's easy to piece a couple of broken pieces together to get a full vitamin, where if they all melt together, you have no idea what you're getting.
That's true. And in different temperature situations, you know, they could melt. But if you're having aversion to pills, you know, gummy vitamins are good.
Yep.
But you have to keep them cool. Okay, we're going to take one more question. We're going to go on, and we'll be back.
This isn't a question, but a statement from Ying Fuzhou. Hi from China mainland. Shanghai is in lockdown. The most popular items are egg, Coca-Cola, cigarettes, and various types of meats.
Yeah, and that's definitely. I know that there's a lot of craziness going on there. We've seen a lot of stuff, and you guys take care. I saw one thing where they had a lockdown, and all the people in the city were beating on pots, and you could hear it all across the city because they were all in lockdown. You know, and two, one thing that you brought up about cigarettes, which goes to something else. You know, if you're a tobacco user, you know, you want to stock up on your tobacco. Another thing to think about is liquor. Liquor, whether you drink or not, liquor can be used for medicinal purposes, but it also can be used in social situations.
That's right.
For people to kind of take it easy and get along. It's a stress reliever. There's a lot of things about it.
And a great bartering tool.
Yes, but eggs and meat definitely are something that, you know, and if you want to do that, you can get chickens. Okay, let's go to our next list on the list. Okay, and let me say this too about these items we're talking about. I'm not talking about going out to the store and loading up a giant buggy full of stuff. We're talking about as you go, as you go during the day. And that's what this made me think about this. This is something that every time I go to the grocery store, or most of the time, I'll grab some lighters. Now, these are Bic lighters. They're great. I keep them sealed so they don't, you know, get contaminated and that little wheel corrodes, because it can. But I pick up just packs of these lighters, and I do mean packs of these lighters, you know, and I like the Bic lighters. You can get there's some other ones that you can get. Now I like the flame lighters as well. Sometimes if I'm in a gas station, I'm getting gas, I'm grabbing a drink or something, I'll pick up one of those lighters and throw it in there with it. And so I'm just constantly just picking them up and building a list and building my supplies. Because if you go out and try to buy everything, it just gets overwhelming.
It does. Well, and you know, this a couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there, and it adds up over time. You know, you turn back and you look at the end of the year with everything that you've bought and the stuff that you have put back, and you're like, wow, I've got plenty of lighters, I got plenty of 550 cord, I got plenty of duct tape. You know, you've got just an excess of inventory in case you need it.
Right.
But you don't really notice the hurt to your pocketbook because you buy it incrementally, a little at a time as you go.
Right. So, but not only lighters but also matches, grabbing a box of matches, throwing them in there. I like to have redundancy when it comes to fire. May need to start a fire, may need to cook, may need to do some things. Maybe the power's out. You know, the lighters they have so many uses, and fire is a very important element of survival.
Yep. So
fire steels. Now, what I love about fire steels or ferrocerium rods is that you can use them over and over and over and over. These can leak. These can fail. In fact, these always fail at the worst possible time.
And that's why you have redundancy. You know, that's why you've got, you know, multiple lighters, because they do, you know, you pull it out and you're like, oh, click, 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 nothing. Oh, let's toss it and get another one.
Right. And so it gives you, now there is a striker in there. If you can get it to strike, that you can actually light something if the fuel runs out, because the fuel can run out.
Hey, you know, one thing that I do with these that a lot of people don't, when I run out of fuel in these, I take it apart and I take the flint and I take the spring out. And I save the flint and I save the spring, because you never know when you're going to need an extra flint, or you never know when you're going to need one of those little springs out of there. So I always save the flints and springs out of my lighters.
Oh, that's cool. That's good. Now, one thing, and I will mention this, Exotac makes really excellent fire starters, a lot of different types. And they give a 20% off anything on their website, which is really great. using Sootch 00. There's a link down below. I think it's Sootch 20, and there's a link down below in the description, and it'll give you a discount. But those are my favorite by far fire steels. They're a little bit more expensive because they're just better fire steels, and the way they have the aluminum tops, and you can have tender tabs in there and all that. So, but they are my favorite. But you do get a 20% off on the Exotac website. So, and I know a lot of guys use it because it's really good. Okay. Now, also what I do is after I pick up my lighters, I typically pick up some batteries. Now, with batteries like these CR123s, and these are great for most of your flashlights, most of your a lot of your optics, a lot of things like that. These are kind of expensive, but they last for 10 years. So you can use these over and over. You can get rechargeables too. Rechargeables are great. And if you have solar power of any way, you can recharge those. But I like to keep these because they keep the power so long. And I also buy a bunch of 2032 batteries. These are for scopes. A lot of scope optics use these kind of batteries.
Yep. A lot of your measuring equipment for my shop tools, my micrometers, my levels and stuff like that, they use the 2032s as well. So I'm the exact same way. I stock up on 2032s.
But now what I typically do with these, I'll get on Amazon or eBay and I'll buy them in bulk.
Yep.
And I'll get them in, and that way, if something like right now, and this is just a few. I just grabbed a few. I've got a drawer like all these but because I use these so much. But also, your standard batteries, and this is a battery daddy. Has a charger on it, but this keeps more of your AA's, AAA's, your regular cell batteries.
Yep. C's and D's. And
But my kids use these all the time for their gaming systems or doing different things like that. But also there are a lot of different lights and things that use these. So I like to have a stock of batteries. And again, I'll go to the store, I'll pick them up, I use them, and then I'll buy them and then I'll put them back. Okay, let's see. We've got, next is magazines. And I started to have some out here, but YouTube has now started doing this thing. 30-round magazines are banned. They can be 29, but they can't be 30.
Yep.
That's a new thing they've done. But that's not the reason why I didn't do it. I forgot them. Buying your magazines, guys, especially when things kind of calm down. And right now, it's kind of that time where we've come off a really demand and things are starting to kind of come down some. Magpul, there's tons of Magpul mags for your P mags, for your AR-15s,
and they've normalized in price again. They're not crazy high in price right now. I saw some this morning. I was looking for something online, and somebody had them on sale, just the regular 29+1 P mags on sale for they were like $8.79 or $8.99 a magazine.
Wow.
And that was just your regular retail price. So there's some great deals out there on magazines right now. It's a good opportunity and a good time to pick up some extras if you don't have any.
And listen, guys, I've done a lot of testing with magazines, and a lot of times they function great at first, but a lot of those magazines start to swell if you load them, and they have some issues. I really my go-to mags are P mags and then SureFeed mags. And SureFeed or OK Industries, which makes them, those are aluminum mags or steel mags. Those are great as well.
But they've been your military supplier for decades for magazines.
And the soldiers like those better.
They do.
They'll look for the OK mags.
They do. Yep. The OKs are, and I'm the same way. The OKs are the P mags. The P mags they're my go-to, because if I end up breaking a magazine, I wear one out and it cracks or whatever, it's $8.
Right.
And I toss it and I just grab another one. One thing that I do with all of my magazines, I don't load them to 30-round capacity or 29+1, whatever. I download them by about 3 rounds, and I only put 26, 27 rounds in my magazine. That way the spring's not compressed all the way in the bottom of the magazine. It doesn't take a set, and your springs tend to last a lot longer when you download your magazine by 2 or 3 rounds. And it doesn't matter if it's a long gun, if it's a handgun or whatever, I always download them by 3 rounds. That way the spring isn't compressed as much and it lasts a lot longer.
Well, and two, when you put 30 rounds, which you wouldn't do that on YouTube, but if you did put 30 rounds in a magazine and you have your bolt closed, when you seat it home, sometimes it won't always go in and connect. So it gives you a little bit of leeway if you have your bolt closed to be able to get it. But handgun mags as well. If you have a handgun that you should have extra mags. And when I say extra mags, when I'm talking about an AR-15, minimum, aside from the one in your rifle, is 6, and that's minimum. So if you have a rifle that you consider your go-to rifle,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a lot of extra mags for that. And for your primary handguns, have a lot of extra mags. And of course, there's Gun Mag Warehouse is a great resource, by
Absolutely.
the way. If you want to check that out. Okay, let's see what we've got. We've got a storm going on outside, and I just heard some thunder. And our dogs, we have a German Shepherd in here that is petrified of thunder. So if he comes bouncing over here, we're gonna have a time. But he's doing better. Okay, let's see. We've got tools. Guys, I mean, hopefully, regardless, you should have tools. Screwdrivers, hammers, pliers, all that kind of stuff. You should have tools, but make sure that your tools are updated.
Yep.
Make sure that you have good quality tools, and that's a big thing. But not only, and one thing that Robbie and I both have been doing is he's gotten into some tools, hand tools, that are like different type tools that instead of having power, like one thing I've got is a grinder, and you put it on the table, and it's got a grinding wheel, and you turn it, and that turning, that mechanism makes it really fast.
Yep.
And so we've been picking up different tools and things like that to be able to take care of problems.
Absolutely. We may not always have electricity, and I want hand tools that I can use to be able to do things, build things without having electricity. I've got my little manual drills so I can drill.
Right.
It's got a little hand crank on the side where you can still drill with it. And I've got those from 1/8 of an inch all the way to a 1/2 an inch.
Wow.
So I can still drill. I can still put holes in stuff. Same with screwdrivers, saws, a lot of manual saws. And I've got to say, your grinder that you've got, I've definitely got some grinder envy with that thing. I have not been able to find one of those yet, an old one, either one of the hand crank or one of the foot pedal ones.
Foot pedals.
But that's one thing that's on my to-do list to find. That every time we go to the flea market, that's one of the first things that I look for is one of those old antique grinders.
Yeah, I found that on eBay, by the way, and bought a lot of other old antique tools that are just good quality steel. One thing I love is my Silky saw, and it's for survival. I highly recommend you. And I'm not affiliated with Silky or anything, but I have everyone in our family has one of these. These things are super fast to cut. They're just awesome. They go down just really short. I actually found out about these from I went to a Fieldcraft Survival school from Fieldcraft Survival, and they did a survival, and this is what they were using. And one of the instructors told me, he says, "Here, man, check this out." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm stuck." So I love these things. But one thing you can do is even your power tools. If you have some way to charge them, like if you have some solar panels and a way to charge it, you can charge those even if the grid goes down. So in fact, I just bought it's been about a month ago. I bought this little chainsaw. It's a Milwaukee chainsaw. It's got a 6-inch little blade. Man, I've been doing all this stuff around the house. I'm cutting things. I'm doing stuff. And then I can just recharge the battery. But sooner or later, the batteries run down. Things happen. So have those manual tools. It's so easy to grab that cordless drill, man.
Yes.
It's like, yep. And so this is a great thing to have your toolkit squared away. Make sure you have the different tools you need. I do want to mention Sportsman's Guide right here, and we really appreciate their sponsorship. $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, no 00. So it saves you some good money because we use it all the time.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, on top of tools, and I've got a container over there. I'm not going to pull it out. But I organize all my screws, my machining screws, my wood screws, different nails, all this stuff. I try to keep everything kind of organized so, I can use it. And I try to keep a good stock of it.
Yep. I'm the exact same way. Decking screws, 2.5 and 3-inch decking screws. I buy those by the big box and just keep them stored up. There's a million and one uses for them. You're repairing stuff at your home, you're building stuff. They're just one of the most versatile screws you can get. And it seems like every year they come out with a different type of screw head for them, whether it's a Torx or a Hex. I always try and buy the Phillips,
right?
Because it's a common size, it's a common driver, and so I always try and buy the Phillips when I go and get those.
Yeah, some of the others are convenient and they're nice, but you can always, like you say,
you can always find a Phillips driver,
right?
Yep.
And you may have all your Torx and everything else, but you don't know where it is.
Right. Or you've got that one oddball Hex or a square driver for that one specific bucket, and then you wear that one out, and you're like, where am I going to get another one of those
that's
drivers?
a good point. That's a
So,
good point.
yeah, I always I go with the Phillips just because it is a consistently sized driver that I can use with a regular screwdriver. I can use it with power tools, and it's one that we've all got.
Right.
So
that's a
I
good
tend
point.
to stay away from the oddball stuff like the Torx or the square drives.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's go to some questions if we have them. Now I'm throwing Sarah Mack under the bus here while she's getting everything together.
And nails, nails are a big
nails.
one to keep on hand from your 6 penny, your 8 penny, your 12, your 16s. Keep those on hand because just like with screws, there's 1,000,001 uses for nails, from hanging stuff, putting stuff together. So nails are another great one to keep on hand and keep a good assortment of different sizes on hand.
Right. Even staples.
That's right.
For your staple gun. Okay.
Steve in Cleveland asked, here's a good question. Me and my brother live in the Midwest, and we have struggled for a substitute for salt. What would be your thoughts?
Salt. In fact, that's one of the things that is on the list, and salt is life-giving. You've got to have salt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about a lick, one of the salt licks, if that's the same kind of salt, and really you need some iodine in your salt.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the foods that you're getting are going to have a lot of salt in them, probably
especially
more than
canned goods.
Yeah, but they've been lessening the salt though, for health reasons. So salt is definitely something, and of course, obviously, if it gets wet, it's going to be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
You can still use it, though.
You can. That's right.
It'll harden up and it'll be a pain in the rear end, but it's still there. So what we do is we usually get the 1-pounders and we keep it in a cool, dry place. And that seems to be okay. And of course, rice, but you're not going to open up a thing to put rice in there to keep it. But definitely, salt is an important element for survival. Again, salt licks, and I've always had this in the back of my mind. I just haven't researched it.
Yep, they're the same.
Yeah, so
same.
You could even go to a feed and seed store, get you a big salt lick, put it back. No, Sarah Mack's going no. She has horses, so she's like, whoa. The whole family can get down there and start licking it.
That's right. But you think about it. You're talking about buying those little 1-pound cans of salt in the store. A pound of salt goes a long way, and it lasts a long time. So you buy 5 pounds, 10 pounds of salt in those 5 or 10 of those little 1-pounders and put them up. That's going to last you a long time.
Right. But there are a lot of effects of salt deprivation. You really need to have it. In fact, the book, Alas Babylon, is where there was a nuclear war around this one area in Florida, but they were untouched. But they were kind of excluded because they were on the coast. And one of the things they started having, they said, we have got to find salt. Mm-hmm. They had run out of salt, and it was over, a long period of time. And they went up to this natural spring because they remembered it, and it had natural salt there, and they were able to get it. You may be able to find some place, and there may be some kind of geological, information somewhere where there is salt deposits. And so you may be able to, to pick up some salt that way. But that's a good question, and it's something that we really need to consider.
Taylor Wilmoth asked, any good brands to buy when it comes to a rain catcher system?
Well, a lot of times, like for us, using the blue barrels has been great. Use food grade. You want to make sure that you do that. There is a place here locally that actually has the barrels. They have the whole attachment systems. They have kits you can buy. When we had our gutters put in, we told him, we said, we're putting in rain catchment. And he was like, oh, okay. And he knew exactly. These guys know there's a lot of rain catchments out there. Some of them are for gardens, but a lot of them are for survival. Mm-hmm. So you can get online and find a lot of these different places that actually furnish the parts you need. I can't remember it's over on Rutherford Road, but it's a good place. In fact, we're going over there. Another thing that we do is we have wine barrels, or they're actually whiskey barrels. But you can use whiskey barrels, things like that, to be able to adapt and put a hand pump on it, do things like that. But as far as a specific brand, I don't have a specific brand. Originally, the rain catchment system that I set out where my parents live now, it was a guy on the side of the road that had the barrels, but they were from Tropicana. Mm-hmm. And when you opened them up, it smelled like orange juice. It was really cool. And so I rinsed them out and we used those. And it's not that difficult. There is a video about how to set that up on my Sensible Prepper channel. It's been a number of years since we we've done the video. I need to do. In fact, I've got a plan to show the using the whiskey barrels as well. And there was a guy that was Coastal Decorations, I believe it was, and he delivered these barrels to us, and they were actually not that expensive. But yeah, I would just get online and start looking around, and you should find some place that actually will probably be able to set you up with everything you need.
DZ Wren asks, what would you suggest to use for good bug out box? We are looking to upgrade our current boxes to spread out contents to reduce the weight to make it easier to move.
Yeah, that's a good point. You get a really big box, it's going to be hard to move. It's funny. FEMA actually, they recommend that you have a box of survival supplies that you can pick. One you have at your house and you have all your stuff in it. The other one is a portable box to be able to put in your car in case there's some kind of situation, whether it be a hurricane or earthquake or whatever, forest fire.
So we use the black totes that we get from Lowe's. They come in different sizes, but it's a really thick black plastic tote with a snappable lid on it. They're yellow black totes. They got a yellow lid. Sorry, I can't give you a better description than that.
I know which stomachs. I've got a couple.
But they're really thick. They're really heavy duty. They're stackable. They interlock with one another when you stack them. But that's what we use, and they're just because they're so durable.
Right. But you don't want to use just the standard thin, translucent.
Right.
I mean, you can, but they're going to break. I mean, they're going to, and we've got them. We use them all the time. In fact, we're looking at a shelf with all these different little, but there's also, there's hefty, those green with the gray, the hefty. I would look for some really good quality. If you go to Walmart, a lot of times it's just got those cheap, and they've got them all over the place and they're great. They're great for organizing, but if you're going to step it up into a survival roll, we've got a big one, and I think it's the black with the yellow top.
Lid.
And we put all of actually, I started out with my blackout kit and this little thing about like this. Now, after the winter storm we had, I got a big box. We got all of these different supplies in there. Yeah, it's big and it's hard to move.
We use those a lot. I've got that are sorted with my camping stuff. They're sorted with my hunting stuff. They're sorted with my fishing stuff. And each one of them's labeled on the outside with the contents that's in it. And then they all stack up in the back of my garage, so it's easy to find them and know what I've got there.
Right. But there are different sizes. So, go with a more compact size and just, compartmentalize what you have.
FB Drivers Training Network asks, question, would you recommend storing candle wicks and grease to make improvised candles?
I store candle wicks. Yes, I would highly recommend that. We have a lot of lanterns. Now we do, and we keep a limited amount of fuel. I'm not really big on keeping fuel around because if there is a fire, it's going to be a problem. But we do keep some limited amount of fuel, and I do keep extra wicks. If you have a lantern, it's a great way to go. They do have, the dogs are wanting to come over here. But yeah, I think that wicks and fuel, grease will burn. Vaseline will burn. There's a lot of flammable things out there. Some people use Crisco actually as a survival tool. So,
Midnight Man asks, sutures are easy to find and get, but where can you get lidocaine?
Yeah, lidocaine. Is that
you can get it non-prescription. Yeah. You can go to your local pharmacy and buy lidocaine patches and stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So you should be able to get that. And if you can get it there, you can probably go on Amazon and get it.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to get injectable lidocaine, but you can get lidocaine patches for like pain relief and stuff.
Yeah, at least topical, around the area. Maybe it'll numb it. But one thing that also is good to have is the stuff that when you have Ore gel. Yep. Ore gel's great.
Yep. And it's a good topical numbing.
And really, you should have some Ore gel because in a grid down situation, you may not be able to get to the dentist.
Robert Tetrault asked, you left out condoms? They have a place to hang out.
Well,
I did a video on like 20 uses of condoms and
alternate uses.
Yeah, alternate. Yeah, there's a lot of uses. We all know the number one use. That's to fill up water.
That's right.
In the military. Exactly. That's one thing the military uses. They'll use they'll put a condom in the kit and you can fill it up with water and it's a container.
Yep.
But the container part's what you really want to look for. But condoms are great. I mean, there's a lot of uses. I did a video and I was showing it where you actually slip it over your feet. Is if you just don't have socks or you need to keep your feet warm. And so I have my foot up on my lap and I'm putting that thing on and I'm wiggling it and it got on Reddit and it went viral, went crazy. And I didn't even realize it till afterwards. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. We got to continue on with our list. We're getting behind here. Okay. Now hardware was the last thing we talked about. So metal wire. Now we talked about paracord, but also having metal wire, bobby pins, safety pins, anything like that. You can improvise, you can use it for different things.
And a wire that a lot of people don't think about that's really cheap to buy is electric fence. Electric fencing wire. You can go to your Tractor Supply or any of your hardware stores, and you can buy giant spools of electric fence wire for next to nothing. It's like 1,000-foot spool is going to run you like $60-$80.
Wow.
And you can get different diameters, different wire gauges, different sizes. But it's a great alternative if you're looking to store some wire for multiple purposes to be able to pick it up on the cheap.
Yeah. And a lot of times metal wire, you can. Yep. Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, bleach. Bleach is important because especially if you need to filter your water. But bleach is, it can lose its effectiveness over time. But having some different things with bleach, and it's great for cleaning things, doing, keeping sanitary. Yep. And that's important in a grid down. Okay, salt. We kind of touched on that with some of the questions. Salt is vital to life. Also, baking soda. Let's see what else. Spices, different things like that. Make sure, because if you're eating beans and rice, which a lot of people, that's their go-to. And it does make a complete protein, but after a while you just can't eat it because your diet. But those kind of things. Soap, having extra soap, just stock it up. Bar soap, and I like bar soap because it's just easy to store, easy to use. A lot of you guys use the body wash and stuff like that.
But like I said, bar soap doesn't eat up a lot of space.
Yeah.
It's easy to put it in your bug out bag, your get home bag. It's easy to store large quantities of it in your home for, a grid down situation. You've got it and it's there and it doesn't go bad.
Right. Okay. Firewood. Listen, you may not have a fireplace. Get some firewood, have it stored somewhere, because you may, if you have a fire pit or you have different things, it's always good to have extra wood stored and it's seasoned by the time you need to use it. You just want to make sure it's covered.
And you can also use the charcoal to filter your water.
That's true. Yeah. And charcoal itself is a great thing that's useful for a lot of different purposes. Okay.
Stomach issues and stuff. You start getting some gastric issues. The charcoal's great for that.
That's right. Yeah. So, it's getting back to the old ways they're doing things, but you want to save yourself as much as you can by buying these things, hoarding these things up.
That's right.
To keep you from going all the way down to caveman life. Yeah. That's what this is really about. Okay, we talked about pallets, also lumber. Now, one great source for lumber, because you never know. You may have to do some repairs. You may want to build a shed for keeping your firewood.
Yep.
You may want to do some things. Going to a job site, a lot of times they'll take odd cuts and they'll throw them in the dumpster. If they need a 2x4 and they only need 4 feet, they cut it in half. They put the other 4 feet in there. You want to ask, and you want to get the wood that's in the dumpster, not the wood that's not in the dumpster. But you can pick that up for free, and it costs them less to have to haul it off. But also pallets. There are pallets everywhere. This one place I drive by all the time. I'm like, oh, there's some pallets. I ought to pick them up. And every time I forget about it. And so, they're just there. And so having pallets, that's a cheap resource to have wood for repairs.
Or firewood, or for firewood.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's easy you can get it for free a lot of times. If you get the pine, it makes great kindling for starting fires. If you get the hardwood, it's already cured, it's already seasoned, and it doesn't have any kind of chemicals on it. It's not treated, as long as it's not imported. If it's imported, then it has chemicals on it.
They have to treat them.
Right, but the domestic stuff does not. So you can store all of that for firewood as well.
Okay, number 18 is extension cords. Having extension cords. Now, because just like we found out with COVID, we had an SHTF situation, but it wasn't what we expected. And so that's a good lesson, because guys, a lot of people have in their mind, okay, this is the zombie apocalypse. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. It never works out that way. It's always different. So having extension cords, plus you can use the extension cords even if you don't have power to tie things down, to do all kind of different things.
Well, and knowing how to tie an extension cord, because a lot of people just roll it up, and then when they get ready to use it, they pull it out and they've got this bird nest. Once again, like with the 550 cord, you've got a huge bird nest. Knowing how to tie up an extension cord to be able to reduce the size of it to where you just pull one end and it unspools off of itself.
Right.
So, that's one thing that if you don't know how to tie an extension cord, look it up, Google it. Maybe we'll do a little quick little tutorial on it on how to tie an extension cord and show you.
That'd be good.
But to be able to tie it, put it up, store it, 100-foot extension cord, you can reduce it down to about 12 feet in length. And if you double it, you can reduce it down to about 6 feet in length for a 100-foot cord.
Wow.
So, we'll do a video on that one.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yep.
Okay, buckets. And the reason why I say buckets is containers. Being able to transport water if you need it. Being able to move liquids or even food and things you can put in there.
Storage.
Different things. I mean, buckets, having some, and you can go to some of these places that have like delis. They have these pickle buckets. You can go to Home Depot. They have the buckets they'll sell you. Or Lowe's.
Like locally, we've got Firehouse Subs that they have their pickle buckets, and you can buy them for like $1.
Yeah,
with a snap-on lid.
Right, and that's a great way to just. But water is really one of the things I really think about with that, because if we run out of water, for some reason there's no city water or something happens, a cyber attack, any kind of number of things, we can go down to the lake or the river, and we have a creek actually, and we can go down there and harvest that water. But then we've got to be able to transport it to our house. So having some different buckets. And then last is Vaseline. And the reason why I put that on the list is because there's so many different uses.
Absolutely.
If you have chapped lips, if you have windburn, it's flammable. So actually one of my favorite fire starters is Vaseline and cotton balls. But there's a lot of things that you can do with Vaseline.
Yep. Dried cracked hands. It's great for lotion.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just endless uses for Vaseline.
And that's why it's been here for so long.
Yep.
And also it makes your skin smooth.
It does.
You want to make sure that. Now, one thing I don't have on the list, but I'm going to add it, is propane. These little small containers or canisters, they're 1 pound canisters. Of course, you can get your big ones, your 20 pounders that go to your grills. You can run your grill. That's a number one thing. You can cook your food. But the one thing I love about propane is that it's stable.
Yeah.
You were talking about this the other day. You found one that was actually like corroded and everything else, and you pulled it out and it was fine.
That thing had to be at least 25 years old.
Yeah.
At least 25 years old. And popped it out, plugged the top on it, and used it.
Right.
No problem at all with it. The one thing that I can say about these little 1 pound bottles right now, they are exceedingly difficult to find.
They are.
If you can find some, go ahead and buy them and start stocking up on them, because this is an item that's already disappearing off of the shelves.
Well, actually they have been, because it was really difficult to find, but they have been coming back some.
Yep.
So while you find them, grab them, because I know Lowe's and Home Depot all of a sudden have a few little extras, and they usually have. So these go for lanterns, Coleman stoves. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of different reasons to have these, and I wanted to make sure that we threw that in. Okay, guys.
I'll tell you one thing that I use them for that a lot of people don't think about is I put a torch top on the bottle, and I use it for a fire starter.
Oh. Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or you can use it as a torch.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, so this has been a whirlwind tour of the things you need to hoard. Hope that you've gotten some information from it and gotten some ideas, maybe some holes that you have. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, it's got me inspired to go out and kind of look up some of these other items. One thing left. I don't want to miss anything. Are Ziploc bags.
Yes.
Ziploc bags are like the bomb. And you can use them, and if you run out of them, there's not really a good substitute for Ziploc.
No, there's not.
So I just want to throw that in. We really appreciate your questions. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. Obviously, this will be on the Prepper School playlist. We have, again, this is volume 23. So there's a lot of different things. And what's really crazy is that we do this stream, and we'll do it for an hour, and we'll get so many views, but it'll double, triple, quadruple on out there, because people, watch it. And there's no reason that you have to watch it unless you have a question.
And it's great to be able to reference back to it as well.
Right. Yeah. It's on YouTube. It's on there live, and you can pick out the different subjects if you want to go back, if you have something specific. And guys, the one thing is about survival and about what we're talking about is, it may be a hurricane, it may be a fire, it may be a natural, it may be civil unrest. There's a lot of things that can just happen. And having a lot of this stuff in line, it doesn't mean that the end of the world's coming, that a zombie apocalypse is on the horizon. It doesn't mean any of those things. But what this does is it keeps you from the things that you do, like you turn on your lights, you turn on your water, you start up your car. If you can't do any of those things, what's next? This gives you an easier way to do what's next. If you don't have these items and those things happen, you go all the way back again to the Stone Age.
That's right.
So, this is just to give you, it's actually a level of comfort.
It sets you up for success.
Yeah, it sets you up for success.
Yep.
And so, anyway, we're gonna tune out. We really appreciate Robbie for being here. A lot of great information. Thank you for,
Yes, sir.
as always a lot of good stuff. And check out his YouTube channel, Wheaton Arms, or just Robbie Wheaton. A lot of cool stuff over there.
Yes, sir.
Again, a gunsmith for over 20 years, and he has a lot of knowledge, even more than me, which is pretty impressive.
It gives me a unique perspective on a lot of firearms and a lot of things that other people just don't pick up on because of the things that I know and see within the industry. So it kind of gives an insider's perspective on a lot of firearms.
That's true. And so go over there. And then, of course, WheatonArms.com, a lot of Glock aftermarket parts, the best flat face trigger on the market, bar none. In fact, I used it this weekend at the Tactical Response, and it was beautiful. Also, we really appreciate Sarah Mack for being over, getting the questions to us, setting everything up. She's invaluable, and but we're really here for you guys, and we really appreciate everything. Also, don't forget about Sportsman's Guide. You get a $20 off every $100 or more purchase. And a lot of things we talked about, they have. But you get $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch. No 00.
Yeah, and make sure you check out their Buyers Club as well. The Buyers Club, you get additional savings as well as free shipping on any order over $49.
So be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.